So here's a couple of kits that are going to be coming up soon and I am really excited about. The first kit I want to look at is this Kratos Heavy Assault Tank. It's a new release from Games Workshop, part of their Warhammer, the Horus Heresy game that they've just released. And I won't bore you with the details of what the Horus Heresy is. If you know what it is, I don't have to tell you because I'd probably get the details wrong. And if you don't know, for the sake of building the model, it doesn't really matter. Now, to me, this is one of the coolest looking kits ever. It just looks like the kind of space tank that I would have drawn as a kid. Giant honking gun on it, guns on the side, guns here, big plow blade. It has all the features that 10-year-old John is going, yeah, that is so awesome. Various guns that you can use on the side, big guns that you can use on the front. It can be painted in many different ways, many different styles, from different factions. The two that it includes markings for are the Sons of Horus with this green color, which is what I'm going to do. Then there's these Imperial Fists, which are this wonderfully tactical yellow. But I still think it looks cool. And then any other faction in the game. I just think it's a really, really cool looking model. Now the parts are typical from Games Workshop. Very, very nicely cast. In fact, I was looking at this kit, comparing it to some that are just a little older. I think they've improved their casting. I mean, not that it was bad. There was no problems with it before. It was quite good before. But this looks even sharper. And just what I love about it is the exaggerated details, the bolts, the panels that are raised. I mean, from a painting standpoint, if you think of this as a palette for your work, it's just a complete pleasure to work on. There's no ambiguity in the casting. There's no, okay, these panel lines are so subtle that, I can't get a wash to stick in them, or, there's nothing subtle about any of it. I love just that, if you really like weathering and painting little details and greeblies and all of that, it's just, chock full of goodness for that. So I've really been impressed looking through these parts. One of the things I really have liked in looking at is they seem to have improved the treads, the tracks on the tanks. This looks a lot more tankish. If you look at any of the older stuff that I've done, like the Rhino or any of those builds, or if you're familiar with it, the treads on them, they looked like tank treads, but at the same time, they were missing an element that was completely believable. They just looked like tread-ish things, but not believable tank treads. But that fits the part. You can just see those as big slabs of metal. I could see, Martin at night shift going, I can weather the heck out of these. And they go on very easily, and they look good. And I'm really, really excited about painting and weathering these. So that's been a huge improvement that I've seen over previous tracked vehicles from Games Workshop. Now, of course, it wouldn't be Warhammer if there weren't giant guns everywhere, and they've got plenty of great big guns that you can stick on this thing, big, ridiculous-looking guns, and again, 10-year-old John just looks at that and goes, that is the coolest thing ever. You can have a big honking cannon, or you can have these giant laser things, or, just whatever. And again, look at all the little detail that's in there that, washes and dry brushing and painting and detailing and all of that. It's just going to be so much fun. That's, again, I'm sounding like a broken record, but that's why I like these. There's just so much to do. Now, a couple of things haven't changed, and you have to get used to this with Games Workshop. One, they condense so many parts into one sprue. it looks like the mold maker was a little drunk that day. Just the stuff running everywhere. But they do this, to get as many parts as they can into one set of sprues without a lot of wasted space. So, I commend them for that, because anything they can do to cut costs is welcome. Their kits are not cheap. But the detail is just really nice looking on this. This is a lot of the smaller guns that go around it. There's the figures. There's a gunner figure that can be mounted, or a commander figure that can go up in the top of the hatch. Another thing that seems to have improved a bit, but it's still not where I would like it to be. The attachment points seem a little smaller, but still they're quite big for the number of parts. So there's a little more cleanup involved than there is on most kits. But it's the plastic is easy to cut. Generally the cleanup of it is not difficult. It's just time consuming. And in my mind, the payoff is worth it. The payoff of the fun of building it is worth it. And you can see, you get, like, for the figures, you get different head options. There's the guy with the helmet on, and then there's there's always a shouty guy, there's the shouty guy, and then there's the stern, constipated guy. And apparently, not only is there's nothing but, in the grimdark future, there's nothing but war. Apparently, there's also a lot of shouting and constipation. So, that's something you can take advantage of. Now, the instructions are fairly straightforward. They show you building one set of the tracks and then the other set. I'm not sure how I'm going to handle. In the past, what I've done with a lot of Warhammer kits is I've engineered it in such a way, if you remember the Basilisk, I did this, engineered it in such a way that I could build and paint almost the entire kit and then just put the tracks on at the end. This, because of the way the design is with these covers over parts of the tracks, it's going to make that upper run. I've got to decide, do I want to temporarily tack these things in place and then later go back and put the tracks on it, or just stick the tracks on it and paint and weather them on the model? I'm not sure yet. I think I'm going to have to wait and see until I get into the assembly how to do that. But you build both sides with the tracks, and then there's a few steps for getting the hull together, and then those side track areas are mounted to the hull, and then you begin building up the upper deck. And once you get the upper deck done, you do the turret. It gives you a lot of different options. You have to pay attention to the instructions, because there are a lot of options for guns. And so you have a choice of, okay, if you want to build this gun, you got to do this. And if you want to build this gun, you got to do this. Generally what I do is I figure out what I want, and I go through and either highlight what I'm going to do or X out what I'm not going to do, so that I don't get confused, because you know me, I get confused. So, but there's lots of gun options. It looks like you could possibly magnetize these, but you may have to do a little bit of engineering, because they seem that you've got these parts that you put on to hold the guns in place. But I think, and I may be wrong because I haven't fully examined it, but I think there's only one set of these parts to hold the guns in place. So I don't know if it would work to try and, have multiples. I'm going to see if I can do it so that it can be multiples. That'll just help the ability to sell it. Honestly, that's what I think about there. I may look at the possibility of, can they be magnetized? I'm sure they can. It's not so much can they be magnetized, it's do I want to take the time to do the things that it takes to magnetize them, or just stick the doggone things on, pick the ones that I think are coolest and put them on there. Then you get some other accessories. You can put this hunter-killer missile. 10-year-old John is going, yeah, hunter-killer missile. Smoke launchers. It's even a searchlight. I think those are kind of fun to paint. And there's quite a few parts, but because if you choose not to use certain parts, if you're only going to pick a gun option here and a gun option there's a lot of the parts you're just never going to use. You end up with a lot of spares. And then you can, have the hatches closed with guns mounted on them, or you can have them open with either this gunner figure that's holding the gun like that, or a commander figure who's looking through his binoculars. I'm actually considering putting in a commander figure, but also mounting the gun, but having it tilted down like it's just not in use. But and then you get to this dozer blade, which I guess they did this for casting purposes, but man, it's a lot of parts that you glue together to get one dozer blade. Yeah, I guess that would be kind of difficult to cast that as a single piece, and it is a cool looking dozer blade. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm definitely going to use that because that just screams rust and dirt and weathering and just all sorts of nonsense. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, another kit from the Horus Heresy series that I'm really excited about building is this Deimos pattern Rhino. Now, I have no idea what a Deimos pattern is. Honestly, don't care. All I know is, again, cool vehicle. This is an armored personnel carrier. This one, I think I've talked about this before. This one I have a fondness for because its profile is very much like the American M113 armored personnel carrier. And I did ride around in those in Somalia. They were Pakistani, but we did some operations with the Pakistani troops. I have been in a combat zone when bullets were flying and things were happening in one of these. And so there's a part of building this that is both familiar and therapeutic for me, in addition to just being cool looking. So I always like building their Rhino or Rhino type APCs. Here you can see the pictures of their build of it, and it just looks really cool, and it's a nice simple build, just basic colors, basic Games Workshop, heavy metal, edge highlighting, a little bit of chipping, a little bit of dust around on it, a little bit of rust, but the total effect is really nice. I mean, this is actually a very simple paint job in its basic detail, but it looks really good, and I like the possibilities. And you see they've got different, I love the names of these guns, the Heavy Bolter and the Havoc Missile Launcher and the Multi-Melta. It all just sounds so cool. And again, 10-year-old John is just going, because I mean, part of, and I've probably talked about this, and I know I'm just rambling on. I'm an old man that rambles, and I've got too much caffeine in my system this early in the morning. But what I love about these is I can look at these models and know that when I was 10, 12, on up into even 14 years old, I would go out in my backyard. In fact, where we lived in Tallahassee, they had done an addition to our house. And when they were done, they'd had to tear up some of the old driveway to pave in part of a new one. And they had left these big chunks of concrete, and they had poured some extra concrete over it. So there was big chunks of the old concrete blocks from the driveway, and then there was some asphalt poured over it, or not asphalt, but concrete. And when they were cleaning it up, my mom said, "Hey, could you just leave that just giant chunk of rock?" It was like 3 feet long, foot high, 2 feet across. It was a big thing just sitting off to the side of my driveway. But I had been playing with that so much with my little soldiers because there were little caves and nooks and crannies, and it was a perfect battle zone. And I would play with my little soldiers, whether they were the just Green Army men, or the 32nd scale Airfix stuff, or the HO scale Airfix and Italeri stuff. I'd play with it for hours. And I'm just looking at this going, when I was 10, when I was 12, I would have absolutely loved to have taken this out on that battlefield and added it to my battle forces and played. Because I didn't care. I would mix and match the little ones and the big ones. I just liked playing soldiers. And sometimes I would have hundreds of them set up. So when I look at things like this, it appeals to me as an adult for the reasons I've already talked about. And the kid in me looks at this and goes, yeah, this is just totally cool. For this one, I'm going to be doing the Imperial Fists, the yellow. That's going to be quite fun to do this highly tactical yellow like that. And I kind of like the black stripe on it, kind of got that bumblebee look to it. Now, when I had heard they were releasing this kit, I had wondered if they were just going to take the standard Rhino kit and throw in a few extra detail parts and just go with it. But I think this is all new stuff because, for one, the sides of the Rhino just look different. This area up here, to me, looks like it's shaped different. The interior is a bit different. And the most important thing, which I think indicates, yeah, this is a brand new casting. And of course, if you know for sure, let me know. But the thing that indicates I think it's brand new is the treads, the tracks for the vehicle. It's this newer style that I just saw in the Kratos that looks more realistic, looks more like what you would see on an actual tracked vehicle, and it's just going to be a lot better, I think, to paint and weather and just give it a... I mean, they look cartoony, they don't look realistic in terms of the overall vehicle, but I always thought the tracks just kind of let it down a little bit because they were so far from reality. But the way they've got them here, I think really nicely addresses that. There is an interior. Now, my plan for building this is the build that I'm going to show on YouTube is going to be one episode. That's my plan. And it's just going to be painting and weathering the exterior. That's all I'm going to do. But I'm impressed enough with the interior that I think what I'm going to do is do a simple paint and weathering job on the interior and just do it as a Patreon bonus video, I guess you'd call it. So you guys can see how I do the interior. But then it'll allow me to just make this one episode for YouTube consumption. I'm gonna be trying to do more one episode things because that just seems to be, I see the statistics. If I do something that's 3 videos, the first video may do pretty good. Everything after that declines. So it's not that I won't do a longer series in the future, but more and more I'm thinking, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be showing a lot more of the details on Patreon and letting you guys see that. You're paying for it. And then just doing the basic simple stuff on YouTube because that seems to be what the attention span is. So, but I think this is, anyway, oh boy, talk about getting off track. I think this is definitely a new casting. And you see, this one does not have near as many parts. These you kind of assemble these sides of the hulls, you put them on this, you put on some parts. I mean, you can get the basic shell of it assembled in just, if you don't get too pedantic about the cleanup, an hour or so. It's going to be a real quick build. And like I said, I'll take some time to do the interior. I'll probably just do all the interior parts before gluing anything together because it works well that way, and then glue it together and just, leave the back ramp so that it can open up and close up. The gun sprue is very similar to the one on the Kratos. I haven't looked to see if it's the same, but it's very similar. It wouldn't surprise me if it was many of the same parts. And you see, we've got the same, you got your figure and you've got your helmet option, your shouty option, and your constipated option. So it's all right there, and you see all the details on the guns and things like that. And there's these hatches, and look at these great just bolts and rivets, and I just love it. So this one is going to be fun to build. So anyway, these are 2 kits that are coming up fairly soon. I'm filming this the week before we head out on vacation. I'm going to start building the Kratos now. I'm going to hope to have it built and assembled before we leave so that when I get back, I can start painting and weathering it and doing that. I am planning right now on doing that one in 2 episodes. One for the painting because there's going to be quite a bit of it. and then one for the weathering. If as I'm filming it, if it's going quickly enough, I may compress it into one. We'll see. You know me, I change constantly. But this one I'm definitely planning on the YouTube side of it just being one video. So this is what's coming up, and man, I'm excited about it.